I wasn't supposed to be in her house that late. I wasn't supposed to be in her room at all. It started with something stupid, my friend forgetting his own wallet and me running it over after he left for work. I should have just dropped it in the mailbox, walked away, and kept things simple. But when she opened the door in a faded sweatshirt and bare feet, brushing a loose strand of hair from her cheek, I froze. "Come in, you'll catch cold out there," she said, voice warm but a little tired. The house was quieter than I'd ever heard it. No TV. No music. Just the hum of the fridge somewhere in the kitchen and the faint ticking of a wall clock. I followed her in, watching her tug at the hem of her sweatshirt like she wasn't sure if I was looking. She set the wallet on the counter without opening it. "Thanks." He'd lose his head if it wasn't attached. I laughed, but it came out softer than I meant. "Guess it runs in the family." Her eyes flicked to mine, quick, then away. Like a match strike. We talked about nothing for a bit. The weather. The mess of rain outside. The fact that she hadn't been sleeping much lately. I noticed her thumb tracing circles along the edge of her mug, though the coffee inside had gone cold. When she moved toward the hallway, I thought she was showing me the door. Instead, she stopped halfway, glancing back. "Can you help me with something?" I hesitated, but followed. Her bedroom was dim, curtains drawn against the gray afternoon. She stepped inside and, without looking at me, opened the door to a walk-in closet. I caught a faint scent, something floral, but muted, woven into the fabric of her sweaters. She slipped in first, then leaned around the doorframe. "We only have 10 minutes, she said quietly. My pulse jumped. 10 minutes for, what? Her eyes met mine, steady, almost daring, but her voice stayed level. "Before my sister comes by. I need help reaching something up there." She gestured vaguely toward a shelf, but her tone made the air feel heavier. I stepped inside. The space was too small for two people not to touch. My shoulder brushed hers as I looked up at the shelf. My hand was halfway to the box when she reached past me, her arm grazing my side. I froze. She didn't move away immediately. The sound of rain hitting the window seemed louder in the silence between us. "You've grown taller," she murmured, almost to herself. I turned toward her, and for a moment, we were too close. Close enough to see the faint crease between her brows, the way her lips parted like she might say something else, but didn't. Her fingers lingered on the box we'd both been reaching for, but she didn't take it down. Instead, she let out a small, uneven breath. Then, the sharp chime of her phone on the dresser outside the closet. 1, 2, 3 notifications in a row. She glanced toward the sound, jaw tightening, but didn't step back. "What's wrong?" I asked. Her eyes flicked to mine again, this time holding there. The phone buzzed once more, louder in the stillness. She swallowed, then said quietly, "It's nothing. Just, stay here a second." Her phone stopped buzzing, leaving the kind of silence that feels like it's holding its breath. She stayed close, close enough that I could feel the faint warmth of her arm against mine, then finally stepped back into the bedroom. I followed, though my chest still felt tight from that brief closeness in the closet. On the dresser, the phone screen lit up again. I saw the name before she tilted it away, Daniel. My friend's dad. "You should get that," I said, trying to sound casual. Her lips pressed together, and she set the phone face down. "It's nothing urgent." But her voice caught on the last word. She sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing the back of her neck like the weight there had been building for years. I hovered by the closet door, unsure if I was supposed to leave or sit beside her. "You've been different lately," I said finally. "Quieter." A faint smile tugged at her mouth. "You notice things you shouldn't." She didn't look at me when she said it. It felt like a half answer, but I let it hang. I didn't want to push her, though part of me did. She started talking again without looking up. "I've been married 22 years. Most of it, fine. Comfortable. But fine can turn into empty without you realizing. Her fingers twisted the edge of the blanket. I don't think he notices anymore when I walk into a room. The confession landed between us like a dropped glass. I thought about telling her that I noticed, always had. From the way she laughed with her head tilted back, to the way her voice softened when she asked about my day. But the words felt too big to say out loud. Instead, I sat down beside her. The mattress dipped, and she glanced at me, almost startled. I'm not supposed to talk to you about this, she said, shaking her head slightly. Why? Because she stopped, biting her lip. Because you're my son's friend. And you're 24. And because people like to judge what they don't understand. The rain outside had turned into a steady downpour, the sound wrapping the room in something private, almost protective. I could hear my own breathing. She finally looked at me fully, her eyes searching mine like she was checking if she'd already said too much. This isn't smart. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because I could feel the exact same pull she was trying to hide. I'm not asking for smart, I said. Her hand rested on her lap, fingers slightly curled. I reached over, slow enough that she could have moved away, and let my hand cover hers. She didn't pull back. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The rain kept going, the clock kept ticking, but in that space, something shifted, like we'd both crossed into a place we couldn't walk back from. Her fingers stayed under mine for maybe 3 seconds too long, enough for it to mean something, but not enough for either of us to say it aloud. Then she pulled her hand back, slowly, like it hurt to do it. We can't, she said, voice low. I know. I didn't move away. The front gate creaked outside. Both our heads turned toward the sound. Her posture stiffened. That's him, she whispered. I felt the air shift. She stood quickly, smoothing the front of her sweatshirt. You need to go. Now. I hesitated, but she didn't look at me again, already walking toward the door. I could hear the lock turning in the front hallway. My pulse was a drumbeat in my ears. There was no way to leave without being seen. I stepped back into the closet, heart thudding, just as the front door opened. Hey, Daniel's voice carried through the house, heavy boots on the hardwood. Hi. You're home early, she replied, her tone steady, too steady. I stood there in the dark, surrounded by the faint scent of her perfume and fabric softener, hearing their conversation in clipped pieces. How's work? She asked. Long rain was hell on traffic. Dinner? Maybe later. Gonna shower first. The sound of footsteps heading down the hallway, toward the bedroom. She appeared in the doorway a second before he did, eyes locking on mine in the shadows. Her breath caught. Stay quiet, she mouthed. Daniel's silhouette filled the doorway behind her. You in here? Just putting away laundry, she said smoothly, blocking his view. He didn't question it. The sound of a drawer opening, then closing. You okay? You seem. I don't know. Off. Her answer came quick. I'm fine. He left, door shutting behind him. She stayed there, leaning against the frame, letting out a breath she'd been holding. I stepped out slowly. That was stupid, she cut in. Reckless. We can't keep doing this. Her voice was shaking, but when I was close enough, she didn't step back. You didn't have to cover for me, I said. Yes, I did. Silence. The rain outside was softer now, but every sound in the house felt amplified. She looked at me then, really looked, like she was memorizing my face before deciding to end something that hadn't even started. My chest tightened. I took half a step closer. She didn't move. The space between us was no more than a breath. My hand lifted on instinct, brushing the sleeve of her sweatshirt. Her eyes closed for a second, and I thought she might let me close that final inch, but the sound of the shower turning on down the hall broke it. She opened her eyes, exhaled, and whispered, "Go. Before we do something we can't undo." I left the house in the rain, but her voice stayed in my head all the way home. I didn't see her for a week. 7 days of trying not to check my phone, trying not to replay that almost moment in her bedroom, trying not to picture her leaning against the doorway with her hair falling forward like it had. Then I saw her at the grocery store. She was alone, standing in front of the fruit section, her cart half full. I almost walked past. Almost. She noticed me first. "You've been avoiding me." I tried for a shrug. "You told me to." Her lips pressed together like she couldn't decide whether to smile or scold me. She glanced around, the aisle was empty, then pushed her cart toward a quieter corner near the back. "I didn't mean," she stopped, fiddling with the sleeve of her coat. "I just didn't want you to get hurt." The words hit harder than I expected. "You think I'm a kid." "That's not," she broke off, her eyes narrowing. "You think this is simple. You think there aren't consequences. Of course there are. But I'd rather deal with them than keep pretending I don't." I stopped myself before the last word. She stepped closer, enough that her voice dropped. "Don't what?" I looked at her, trying to find the line between reckless and honest. "Don't think about you." Her breath caught. Just slightly, but I heard it. Her hand was on the handle of her cart, knuckles pale. Then she glanced toward the store entrance, and froze. Daniel had just walked in. He hadn't seen us yet. He was scanning the aisles, phone in hand. She turned back to me, her voice low and sharp. "You need to go." I didn't move. No, for the first time, I saw frustration flash across her face. "You can't, he doesn't look at you the way I do," I said before I could stop myself. Something in her expression shifted, not anger, not relief, but something raw that made my chest ache. She didn't answer, didn't move, just stood there staring at me like she was trying to memorize the exact shape of those words. Daniel started walking toward us, still looking at his phone. She grabbed my wrist, quick and decisive, pulling me between two aisles and out of sight. We stood close, too close, the smell of her shampoo threading through the air. "You can't say things like that," she whispered, but her grip on my wrist didn't loosen. "Why not?" "It's true." Her eyes searched mine, and for a second I thought she'd let go, but instead, her fingers slid down, catching mine. The heat of it went straight through me. The sound of Daniel's footsteps past the end of the aisle. Her hand didn't leave mine. When she finally looked up again, her voice was barely there. "If you don't walk away right now, I won't be able to either." I didn't hear from her for 3 days after the grocery store. By the 4th night, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove past her street, telling myself I was just checking in, but I ended up parked outside her house, engine off, rain speckling the windshield. The living room light was on. Curtains drawn. I almost left, and then her front door opened. She stepped out, pulling her coat tighter against the cold. She wasn't alone. A man I didn't recognize walked her to the edge of the porch. Younger than Daniel, better dressed. He said something that made her laugh, not polite, not guarded, but real. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached. She noticed me the second she stepped onto the driveway. Her smile faded. She said something quick to the man, then walked straight toward my car. I rolled the window down halfway. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was low, urgent. "Who was that?" "A realtor," she said instantly. Too instantly. "Since when do you need a realtor?" She hesitated, and in that pause, I had my answer. Her eyes softened, almost apologetic. "I'm selling the house." The words knocked the air out of me. "You're leaving." "Daniel and I, we're separating." "It's been coming for a while." She looked away toward the streetlight, the shadows on the wet pavement. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to think, that what? I cut in. That this was your excuse. Her jaw tightened. That it would make this easier for you. Or for me. I leaned back, trying to process it. The walls I thought we were trapped behind, she was taking them down. But instead of relief, all I felt was the ground shifting under me. Why didn't you just say something? I asked. Because, she said quietly, if you knew I was free, you'd stop hesitating. And I'm not ready for that. The sound of tires on wet road made us both glance over. Daniel's truck turned onto the street, headlights sweeping across the driveway. Her hand shot to the door handle of my car, pulling it closed. Go. Please. I shook my head. Not until, go. Her voice cracked, and for a second, I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen before, fear. Not of Daniel, but of what we'd become if nothing stopped us. I started the car. Daniel's truck pulled into the driveway before I'd even reached the corner. In the rearview mirror, I saw her still standing there in the rain, coat clutched tight, watching me leave. And now I didn't know if she was walking out of a marriage, or away from me. 2 nights after the driveway, she called me. No hello, no small talk. Just, can you come over? Her voice was steady, but I could hear the undercurrent. I didn't ask questions. When she opened the door, she looked different. Hair pulled back, eyes bare, sweater sleeves pushed up like she'd been pacing. Daniel's gone for the night, she said. We need to talk. I followed her into the living room. The house felt stripped. Shelves cleared, family photos gone from the walls. You're really selling, I said. Yes. She stayed standing, arms folded. And before I do, I have to decide what I'm taking with me. What I'm leaving behind. I knew she wasn't talking about furniture. I don't want to be someone's mistake, she said. Not yours. Not mine. You're not, I could be. She cut me off, then stepped closer, unfolding her arms. I keep thinking, maybe this only feels big because we've been hiding. Maybe out in the open, it falls apart. Maybe we fall apart. Her words landed like stones in my chest. You're scared. I'm not the only one. She was right. I'd been holding back, telling myself I was protecting her, but really I'd been protecting myself from the possibility that she'd choose safe over me. I don't care if it falls apart, I said. My voice shook. I care if I never find out. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she reached up, touching my face like she wasn't sure she was allowed to. This could ruin a lot, she whispered. It could save something too, I said. We stood there, close enough to hear each other's breathing. Then she let her hand drop, but instead of stepping back, she took my other hand in hers. I'm leaving the house, she said. But I'm not leaving, us. The words hit hard. My throat tightened, but before I could answer, headlights swept across the window. A car pulling into the driveway. She didn't let go of my hand. That's my sister. She'll be here all night. The moment was still hanging there between us, raw and unguarded. So what now? I asked. Her smile was small, but real. Now we stop hiding. Whatever that means. A knock at the door. She squeezed my hand once, then stepped away to open it. I stayed standing in the middle of the room, heart pounding, knowing that no matter what came next, whether it lasted or not, we'd already crossed the line together. A week later, the house was half empty. Boxes stacked in corners. The smell of fresh paint in the hallway. Every trace of the life she'd built here with Daniel was being dismantled piece by piece. I came by in the afternoon to help load the moving truck. Her sister was there, bustling around, giving orders. We didn't touch more than necessary, didn't speak in ways anyone else could read. But every time our eyes met, there was that quiet, steady thing between us. When the last box was inside, her sister left to grab lunch. The moment the door closed, she leaned against the wall and let out a breath like she'd been holding it for days. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, but her eyes were glassy. "It's just, a lot. Ending something you thought would be your whole life." I stepped closer. "It doesn't have to mean the good parts are over." Her mouth twitched into the smallest smile. "You're too young to sound like you've lived through something like this." "Maybe," I said. "But I've waited long enough to know I don't want to waste time pretending." She looked at me for a long moment, then reached for my hand. No hesitation this time. Just fingers lacing with mine, warm and certain. "This next part," she said softly, "it's going to be messy." I'm okay with messy. We carried the last of her things to her car. She shut the trunk, then turned back to face the house, the place where we'd stood too close in the kitchen, whispered in the closet, almost kissed in the grocery store aisle. I watched her take it all in one last time. "Feels strange," she said. "Feels like the start," I told her. She took a breath, let it out slowly, and smiled, not wide, not perfect, but honest. The kind of smile you give when you're stepping into something you don't fully understand but want anyway. We didn't kiss there in the driveway. It wasn't the moment for it. Instead, she squeezed my hand once before getting into her car. I climbed into mine. At the end of the street, she was right behind me, following toward whatever came next. No guarantees. No rules. Just the two of us finally moving in the same direction. I didn't know how it would look a year from now, or even a month, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the answer. Because some things, once they've started, don't go back. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?